Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Shunyuan Hu. I'm the founder of Joint Commonwealth Fund, or JCF. So welcome to this week's JCF Weekly Chat, where we'll discuss and talk about, Bitcoins, cryptos, and investments related topics. So actually, some of you might know the past week or so has been the Chinese New Year. So during New Year's, families usually gather together, to see each other. Relatives who have not seen each other for some time gather together. And the elders usually would ask questions, regarding, how's your job? How's your relationship? Are you going to have kids? Things like this. The young people usually, it's questions they're afraid to answer. But for some, and sometimes they will share some wisdom. One of it might be, asking whether you are doing savings. So this is advice from the elders. Of course, there are different, cultural differences. Like the Chinese often or Asians tend to save more, and Westerners or like Americans tend to save less. But despite the differences in culture, saving for reserving money for emergencies is often a good practice. But how can we look at this? What's it? Why do they often advise us? Why do the old and the wise usually advise for this? One obvious reason, of course, is if you have an emergency of sorts and you need some cash, then definitely having some cash at hand is good, right? But I think in the modern times, especially in this age, we all know that right now we're experiencing what's called a negative saving rate, which means that the rate of inflation, or basically, the prices of goods and services, they actually increase faster than what the interest rates banks are paying us. Meaning that if you put your cash in banks now, actually it will decrease its value over time. So another similar concept related to saving, which is a good advice, is investments. Okay, but how do you actually do investments? Investments is a similar concept where you are putting away money not for use now, but you actually put it away so that you expect it can increase in value in the future. But how does one invest? Okay, so you probably have heard a lot of investment tips, advice into like stocks, bonds, real estates, etc. But how do you know what is investments and what to invest? If we want to think or learn about investments, it's best to learn from the best. So Warren Buffett, one of the richest men and a very famous investor, he and his teacher Graham, actually, Warren Buffett studied under him as a master student, and later went into his firm. So Graham had written this book called The Intelligent Investor, which I recommend highly for a read if you can. And it discerned about two practices between speculation or investing. So what's the difference? Well, according to Graham, if you want to invest in something, then you don't lose your capital or your main asset. If there is risk of losing your main capital, it's not an investment, it's speculation. Okay, so things, an example of a sound investment might be like if you buy a house and then rent it for monthly rental fees, and you can get that continuously. Or if you get stock of a company and then it pays dividends over time, that's investments. But on the other hand, if you're thinking about I want to buy this because I expect it will go up in price in future, and I will sell it, that is called speculating. Okay, or maybe a better, less, nicer sounding terms is called trading. Okay, trading is another term for this kind of activity. So, what is a good practice? Well, there's actually no right or wrong answers in this. There are people who are very successful speculators, like Soros, who also become quite rich and through speculation. And then there's very successful investors like Warren Buffett. So it's really a matter of knowing the type of person you are and the type of interests you have. For example, if you speculate, then what happens is you probably have to pay a lot of to the current state of affairs. You have to watch the news, follow the markets, do technical analysis, and spend a lot of time analyzing what's the stock going up and down, and have a good feeling for that in order to speculate well. But if you're like me, you don't have that time, then maybe investment is better. Okay. And on the other hand, how do you invest? Well, one of the main ways, active investments, as they call it, is you study the companies or the real estates, have a deep understanding of it, and understand its real value, and then pick something and put your money and hold on to it. Okay. This is an approach if you have the time, the interest, the ability, the aptitude, okay, in terms of studying what to invest. But if you are like me, whose interest lies elsewhere, like I like to build things, I like to, be an entrepreneur, to do startups, then it's not probably a good approach for you. There's another thing you might want to know is called index funds, okay, or index investments. So the idea of an index fund or index is that you don't really invest in any specific kind of assets or company because you need to study, right? And you don't know which one of them will actually succeed or fail. But index basically simply you invest in a bunch of things, okay? And as long as the long-term big trend is going upward, like the stock market will go up or the real estates will go up, then doing some index style investments would make sense and will always get you money in the long run. And this is called passive investments. And it's relatively, safe and relaxing. All right. Now the question comes back to cryptos or Bitcoins, which is, our main thing. So one good question one can ask is, so putting money into cryptos or Bitcoins, is that an investment or is it an speculation? Now, we all agree that probably it's not saving, right? Because, cryptos fluctuate a lot. A Bitcoin was once worth 20,000 US dollar. Right now, it's about 3,500. Okay, so we wouldn't consider that as keeping your value safe or saving. But regarding whether it's an investment or a speculation, okay, this is a question, you have to look at how you want to look at this. For example, if your attitude is that, okay, right now Bitcoin is about 3,500, I believe it will become 5,000 sometime later and I will sell it then that's a kind of a speculator mentality. You are buying things low, selling them high, okay, and basically you earn by the price differences. However, if your view is more long term and more like hold on to it, for example, like gold, the amount of gold in the world now is about 7.5 trillion US dollars now. So even if just 5% of that is replaced or supplemented by Bitcoin, because Bitcoin might be a better gold. It's cheaper and easier to transfer, to verify, to store than gold. Then even if just 5% replacement of gold, well, makes each Bitcoin 50,000 US dollar. Okay. So you see right now it's worth 3,500 US dollar. But if you believe that its potential value could be 50,000 US dollar, then you might do an approach which is to buy it and hold it for as long as it's worth. Then this might be more like an investment attitude or approach to cryptos or Bitcoins. Okay, so whether which one suits you, it's up to you. And again, if you'd like to understand more about how this all works, please do follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and also please feel free to go to our official website, jcf.world, to learn more about how we're utilizing index approach for crypto investments. All right, so thank you very much, and I will see you next week.